Hello, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, Earthlings, wherever you may be on planet Earth. This is me, having been up since 2 o'clock in the morning. The kids went out drinking, weren't going to get back till about 3:30, so I thought I'd wait up until they get back, make sure the house is locked up, and then go to bed. And then I couldn't sleep at all. So I wasted I didn't waste, but I spent several hours of my life reading the Aspen Institute's, what do they call it? Commission on Information Disorder Final Report, November 15th, 2021. Aspen Digital, whatever that is. The Aspen Institute has a website and it's huge. And they've got loads of these kind of reports. So I only wanted to focus on the one that Prince Harry is affiliated with. And I don't see him saying any quote. I've read the whole report and I've made notes. And this is my review of the final report of the Commission on Information Disorder. So you'll see as we go along what I make of it. But yeah, all it seems to be is Harry is apparently one of the commissioners, whatever the hell a commissioner is. Because I don't think he paid for it. I don't think any of the commissioners paid for it. A guy called Craig, what's his name? He's apparently quite famous. Where's his name gone now? Yeah, I can't find him. Craig Newmark Philanthropies paid in entirety for this. He commissioned it. He paid for it. He had some sort of a website you're probably all familiar with, called something like Craig's Friends or Craig's Connections or something like that. It is a well-known one. I have heard of it before, but the actual name escapes me. Craig Newmark. In fact, I can Google him quite quickly, and then I can get the name of the thingy that he's in. So it's aimed at Americans, apparently. Yeah, it's Craig Newmark. Just get the thing up. Craigslist. That's what it was called, Craigslist. Apparently he doesn't run it anymore. He was a billionaire, but I think he's given away loads of his money or something. Seems to have led quite an interesting life. Look him up, he's got a Wikipedia page. I've never really heard of him or come across him before, so I'm not going to comment on him particularly. But just going back to this final report. Now, firstly, it wasn't easy for me to find this, even by going to the Aspen Institute's website. I went to their, I typed in misinformation, disinformation, Aspen Institute. Load of links came up. I go into their website, they give me a list of programs, and this one isn't on it. Now, that might be because this is a report or something, I don't know, and the others are called programs, I don't know. But I found it quite hard to navigate, so I had to go to Google in the end and search Commission on Information Disorder Final Report, and then a direct link came up to it, and then I was able to download the PDF file. Now, I'm going to begin by reading out, there are comments on their article before you download the thing. So I'm going to read out the top comment, which I think is very snotty, but yeah, sums up pretty much the attitude of the entire thing that I've spent hours reading and scrutinising. This guy Matthew says, how many people who have commented here so far have actually read the report? If you did, you'd realise that most of your comments completely missed the mark on the recommended changes actually in its pages. Why is simply blind guessing at its contents acceptable? He continues, I think the biggest problem facing our country today is armchair pseudo-intellectualism. There used to be a day when someone who had not been seriously academically studied a particular discipline, in brackets, including lay Americans, meaning within almost all areas of knowledge, close brackets, would preface their likely incorrect, in brackets, and in some possibly dangerous, close brackets, musing with, quotes, I'm no scientist, but dot dot dot, or I'm no journalist but dot dot dot, or I'm no economist but dot dot dot, close brackets. Not today. Anyone with a keyboard and not in a coma is suddenly able to tell others that they know what's really going on. It's not even lowering the bar. There is no bar. Folks, reverse this trend. Actually read the paper, and after you've done so, then comment here on what you think about certain of its conclusions / related recommendations. I think he left the word aspects out of that sentence because it would make more sense. So, plebs, beware, like me. I read that comment before reading the thing and I thought, oh, so this paper is not for us common morons on the street. This is for them, their overlords that know best of what we need in our lives. So, if you're uneducated like me, I've got A-level law, got a grade D. So if you're not academically astute like me, then stay away. You know, you've no business reading it, let alone commenting on it. But what his comment really does is sums up in entirety the attitude behind this report. It's quite easy to read. There's a bit of word salad sprinkled in there, which is irritating and makes absolutely no sense. But on the whole, I could understand where they're coming from, or at least I hope I haven't misinterpreted where they're coming from. This one's going to be a little bit longer. We've got a private charter at 12:30, so I can't go on too long. So I'll start with my notes then. They took advice from various experts, amongst them some guy called Yoel Roth from Twitter. I forget his title. I don't know that he works at Twitter anymore. I think Elon might have got rid of him. But he was something like the welfare officer at Twitter or something like that. An equal counterpart called Clement Wolfe at Google gave them advice. I didn't see Prince Harry's name on the list as having given them advice. I might have missed it, but I didn't see him have any input. His only input seemed to be the Duke of Sussex is endorsing this. And I don't know if Harry's read this. Has Harry got any degrees in anything? Because I haven't. They do state it's aimed at America. In fact, there's constant reference through it, like Americans. And the way and the context it came across to me was as if it was written by people who are not Americans. Like, the context in which they refer to Americans, they might as well use the word species, because that's how it came across to me. But maybe other people don't get it that way. They give a definition for the word disinformation and a definition for misinformation. Now, I don't know if these are Oxford Concise Dictionary versions or accepted lexicological practice decisions of what they mean. But in short, disinformation apparently is intentional spreading of lies. Misinformation is unintentional spreading of falsehoods. So the misinformation is a little less serious than the disinformation. I didn't know that apparently you guys in America have something called HIPAA, which protects your data rights. I haven't looked into that yet. They made quite a big do about they don't like the Faz marketing agency. They were paying for advertising on behalf of their clients to, I don't know, advertise some product or other. They want platforms to give various researchers access to your private data and mine, which apparently platforms don't do at the moment. I would bloody well hope not. They say, oh, it must only be responsible agencies and only for research and journalism and philanthropy and to make society better. Well, even if an organisation is registered or licensed by a government to have the tremendous responsibility of, for example, having someone's private name, telephone number, home address, where they work, blah, 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 bank details, they might get unlucky and get an employee who's open to bribery. Someone might walk up to them and say, I'll give you some money, I'll give you 40 grand, I just want some information. Example, let's say you've got a couple of big YouTube channels and they're both into growing plants and they're quite competitive with each other and they're both growing, I don't know, tomatoes or marrows or something, and one of them will say, bribe this institute so you've got access to the data, I'll give you 40,000 to take the other YouTuber down. And this employee thinks, well, it's only vegetables and plants, who cares? Yeah, okay, why not? 40 grand, that's a good deal. That potentially could happen. I would point that out as a danger. But this is just me, a moron, a pleb on the street. I mean, what do I know? I haven't got a degree in misinformationalness, kindfulness, compassionateness, or whatever it is that they have their degrees in. They talk about content moderation, platform disclosure, which I do agree with, and they do make this point, but there's a caveat. They want platforms to not just deplatform people. They want them to give them a 3 strikes. They do want them to explain to people what they're doing wrong. I agree with all of that, rather than just cut, we're not telling you nothing, nada. They also want people to have a proper course of appeal when a platform takes them down. They don't say it, but presumably in case someone has actually built a lifestyle around that platform and it absolutely destroys their life. But they say they also want these journalists and various research companies that are very responsible, that won't do anything bad with your data, to be given all that private information between you and the platform for research purposes, or possibly so they can sue the offender at a later date or take them to court and have the evidence. They do actually say that in one part. They say that we plebs are being led by the nose by a minority on the internet called pay to play. Now, I'm familiar with this allegation. This is like, there's only 50 odd people on the internet that don't like Meghan Markle, and they're all being paid by, I don't know, someone like Kensington Palace to trash her and spread mis and disinformation left, right and centre. It's inconceivable to these people that maybe the masses have all looked at the situation and the majority have, not everyone, but the majority have formed their own opinions and conclusions. They also, I mean, this is just incredible. At the end of everything, that every topic they talk about, and I'm going to go back to my phone where I've got it, because I'm not going to inflict this on poor Graham's phone with a download. Bad enough it's on my phone. It's just got to scan down. There's 80 pages of this. 80 pages. And it talks about, they have this really weird reference of who it's for. They have recommendations. They want to build trust. They want to reduce harm, etc., etc. Public interest research, that's what they call it, where they want access, to your data. What page am I on here? Page 37. It's got to be coming up. Oh, key stakeholders, they call it. At the end of each section, and there's a lot of sections, they say the key stakeholders, because they want to make the world a better place. They want to make the internet a less harmful place for everybody. And the key stakeholders are listed at the end. And it's like government, platform, academics, researchers and journalists. That's basically, there's a few others. None of the key stakeholders do they ever say the public or us morons. It's always things like government, the platforms themselves, academics, researchers and journalists. The academic hoi polloi to us. I hope you're all following this, because it might be all a little bit too confusing and complicated for our little brains. I'm so thankful to have people like the Aspen Institute. I don't know where I'd be without them. I really wouldn't. Oh yeah, oh bloody hell, I've got to get to this one, because I want to quote them from this, where they talk about rationale. This is to do with racism, ad transparency, it's not that one. Recommend build to trust, truth and transformation, I think it might be this one. Rationale, let me have a look. Yes it is, I got lucky there, I found the paragraph. They say, it's imperative that America, right? America, that's who we're talking to, confront the historical power structures that have relied on maintaining inequalities fueled by historical propaganda campaigns and other forms of false information. These narratives include the misrepresentation of indigenous genocide, the marginalisation of African Americans as a result of 400 years of slavery and subjugation. Is America 400 years old, or is it about 250 years old? Or just Not quite sure about that sentence there, actually. Make what you will of that. Then it goes on. The next couple of sentences are a real beaut. The harms caused by Japanese internment camps, the discrimination experienced by Muslims and Jews, so far so good, they're naming everybody, gender injustice of all kinds, so we're starting to get a bit vague, and other forms of socially destructive discrimination, you know, like all the other people that are being left out, but we couldn't be asked to list them. We're just, well, it's boring, isn't it? How very intellectual of them to list it all. I'm thankful they listed some of them. So they they also recommend, and I have not looked these platforms up, that we should all join something called POL.is, which apparently is some sort of riveting equivalent to YouTube, Facebook and Twitter all rolled into one. I'm off to sign up for it as soon as I finish this video. Another one they recommend is Local Voices Network, which sounds equally riveting, or my favourite, Front Porch Forum, whatever that is. I've never heard of any of them, but they're really dead keen on us to all rush over there and sign up and dump our YouTube channels and stuff. They talk about, I've just got to find, what is it, page 56 for the absolute beaut, and I would highly recommend certain people read this. They talk about investing in local media, like radio stations, local newspapers and local television, because apparently, and especially for Indigenous people, and I don't know who they're referring to as Indigenous people, but us plebs, and especially Indigenous people, would find it easier with visual and audio to help us find our news and get the truth, which implies we're all rather stupid and can't read or do our own research online. And again, they refer to Americans, right, workforce diversity, they go on about, local media investment, I'm up to that. I'm just looking for, they talk about liar's dividend, which is really delicious and juicy. I know you guys will, accountability norms, I wonder if it's under this one. Oh no, that's more about local TV anchors and radio stations, and key stakeholders in that are civil society, professional bodies, corporate leaders, journalists and media, public officials and technology. No mention of us plebs again as stakeholders. We're just, I don't know, the fodder out there being looked after for our own good because we're too stupid to do our own research. Apparently, according to this, most of us just read one thing on Facebook and go, okay, oh, that's a fact. I won't check that anywhere else. And they encourage us to look at more than one place because we're too stupid to realise that. So save us having all that bother. They could just control the local TV and radio stations. And they could just tell us, you know, all the good bits that we need to know, and leave out all that naughty, bad stuff that they think is bad for our mental health and could actually kill people in some. You know, people could die. People could die in some instances. They don't actually offer any explanation as to how people could die. What page am I up to? I'm at page 62. Now, I must have gone past it. It's just a beaut. Page 55 to 56. Oh yes, here we are. I found it. Yeah. Oh yeah, they want to hold medical experts to account when they spread false info on the internet, like doctors, qualified doctors. They want to stop qualified doctors from, you know, just spewing lies out there. Like, I don't know, for example, some irresponsible doctor might say, it's okay, you can cut your left leg off, it'll grow back like a lizard's tail. You know, some shit like that. I guess what they're referring to there, because this is going back to 2021, is possibly esteemed epidemiologists who were shut down, allegedly, according to Elon, who's just taken over Twitter and found out that they were giving dangerous advice, like, don't take medical advice off social media. If you've got any concerns about the cure, go and talk to your doctor. Shut that free thinker down, qualified doctor. He never asked Aspen Institute for permission to go saying such wildly dangerous things all over the internet. People need to blinkedly accept the cure and do it with delight. Yeah, got to this one. This is under the heading, I don't even know, because a lot of their headings don't make sense to what they're... At the core of today's crisis is this breakdown of norms. Compounding the problem is the media's continued repetition, amplification and rewarding of those who lie. Oh, you're going to love this. By giving them high-profile coverage. I don't know, like maybe Netflix, I guess. That's quite high profile, isn't it? And by making the who said what horse race story, instead of meeting their obligation to provide facts, context, and hold liars to account. Oh, it gets better. Frankfurt's colourfully titled Own Bullshit also notes that many of these merchants of doubt care less whether they lie than whether they successfully persuade, either with twisted facts or outright lies. In any case, we must not continue to tolerate lies, the liars and the bullshitters who tell them. There's swear words in this. It's not me, you know. My hands are tied. I've got to read what's there. And bullshitters who tell them, and those who give them prominence and profile without calling them to account. Individuals function as members of groups, and that presents opportunities to use social norms to motivate positive behaviour. The interventions and responses will look different in each community and context. Some recent examples of community leaders and industries using norms to restore public trust and disclosure included. And they go on, where's the lie deficit? Because I know I read this, definitely. And it talks actually actively about bullshitters who cause division in communities, hatred. No one holds them to account. No one fact checks. Like, I don't know. The next section they go on to is an absolute beaut. It's called civic empowerment. I just love the word empowerment. Civic empowerment, according to this report, is encouraging us morons to not just look at one news item or one link and blindly accept it and go, oh, right, okay, that says so, you know, that's it, I accept that. They want to encourage us to seek out as many different newspapers as possible, to do research, look at more than one Facebook page, listen to YouTubers who are analytical about things, question things, double check. That's actually what this report says, in order to stop the liars' dividend of liars and high-profile personalities who go out making wild claims that aren't true. I mean, for example, you could probably put Murky Meg, according to Taz, and Yankee Wally in that category as researchers who don't just accept what mainstream media says. Just a couple of things. I mean, somebody once said they got married 3 days before they got married. So a few people, I'm not sure about that, so I'll go and check that here, there and everywhere, till the Archbishop of Canterbury came out and went, no, that's not true, otherwise I'd be breaking the law and I'd have been arrested. So that was a total lie. There's no other way to put it. But people went and analysed it and looked in different ways, which I very much got the impression that this report was to discourage, but apparently under civic empowerment, they very much support that idea. Or who lived in Nottingham Cottage at Kensington Palace before a certain famous complaining couple? Was it dwarfs? That's what they said on the Netflix thing. It must have been dwarfs who lived here. Turns out, because I'd actually forgotten, and it was only when some of you commenters reminded me, and other YouTubers pointed it out, well, wasn't it the Prince and Princess of Wales who lived there when they were the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge? Aren't Catherine and William ever so slightly taller than Harry and miles taller than Meghan, and they lived in Knockout for a couple of years? So Harry and Meghan knew damn well who lived in the cottage, but that was totally twisted and edited. So what the Aspen Institute report would like us to do is not just accept those lies blinkedly, but go out and actually check. They talk about Section 30 a lot, which I guess a lot of you Americans know about, and I have heard the pros and cons for Section 30. In essence, it's a very condescending report. Now, I don't know if these people realise that, I suppose they assumed that none of us actual plebs would like ever read it. Well, I just read it as a pleb, and I think it's deeply insulting to everybody. It assumes that us masses are thick as planks. We need the intellect, to go back to the guy's comment at the beginning. We're all armchair pseudo-intellects, where I'm not a doctor, I'm not an expert, but I'm not this, but, well, you should go away and get a modicum of education before you're even allowed to look at the report. Go away, you maggot. That's how the whole report comes across to me. Now, the guy who funded it, I've got to find his name again now, it's Craig Files or something, Craig Newmark. He funds lots of people, and there was a young lady, I forget her name now, but she set something up called The 19th. Now, I don't know if it's a magazine, an online magazine, or a radio show, or what, but The 19th, with an asterisk mask, or is it referring to something, 19th Amendment? You Americans will know about this, when women got the right to vote, apparently. I've been up all night doing all this research, so forgive me if I've got that part wrong. This guy, Craig, financed this young lady with her, it was all about women and girls, and, you know, they can vote, and things that help women and girls. Nothing wrong with that. But this young lady received a phone call from the Duchess of Sussex, Meghan herself, saying, "Hi, I'd like to interview you." And this young girl was like, "Oh wow, the Duchess of Sussex knew that I existed. How did the Duchess of Sussex know that I existed? I'm so honoured." Well, the reason I'm guessing she knew you existed, my lovely, is because Craig Newmark financed you and financed the Aspen misinformation report. I'm just stab in the dark. I see a connection there. I could be wrong. Could be a pure coincidence. He seems like a really nice guy, actually, Craig. A really nice guy. A well-meaning guy. Misguided, perhaps, a little. Possibly should check into who's creating these reports for him, that they're kind of sure how old the United States of America, let's put it that way. Not America. America's been there, you know, since the planet was formed, presumably. But the United States of America, you know, War of Independence and all that sort of stuff. He needs to make sure that these people who create these reports are quite sure how old that is, and it's probably not 400 years old, because they don't elaborate on all that. It's like, oh, that's all America's fault for the last 400 years. He'd probably also want to double check that fully qualified doctors giving pretty sensible advice online in order to combat disinformation and misinformation. You know, like, don't drink any bleach. That's a bad idea. Don't do that. Don't do that. Check with your doctor first, because this cure, it could be right up your street. That could do the trick. On the other hand, it might not be for you. So perhaps Craig is being a little naive in his acceptance and, you know, who he associates with. I guess he gets a lot of people wanting to associate with him because he's a billionaire. That's another thing he'd have in common with Meghan. She loves money. He's got money. That's something. So it's not just that. It's not just that her husband's affiliated with something that was financed by Craig. That's another thing they've got in common. One thing they don't really have in common so much is that Craig is an avid, if I may use that word, ornithologist. I looked at his Twitter. He loves little birds, pictures of pigeons, pictures of sparrows. He loves them, and I'm assuming he loves hummingbirds. Remember the Netflix docuseries with Meghan and Harry? When little Archie said, "What's Daddy doing?" "Oh, Daddy's a stupid bird watcher. He's playing with the stupid boring hummingbirds again." Might want to check into that one, Craig. You know, she might not be, I don't know, the girl for you. As always, thoughts, opinions. I'm off to look for the dolphins, and I bet you they're out in the strait. Have a fabulous